Welcome to another episode of Chasing the Wind. I'm just sitting here thinking to myself when I used to watch Hee Haw when I was a kid, and that guy in the radio station that had egg cartons on the back in his little studio to absorb the sound, and he would say, "Station KRN." Anyway, just made me think of that. Nope, I am not that guy. My sweater is buttoned up correctly, and I am Pastor Mark, and there's been a comment that is running around down here where we do our recordings, and it is just kind of impacting. And if you read the title of today's thing, All Sunshine Makes for a Desert. And we were discussing down here, and I'm going to discuss it with you now. You can do what you want with it, but we are in, Andy and I do counterculture, and we talk about how the church is supposed to actually not be absorbed by the culture, but the culture certainly finds its way into the church many, many times. And one of the ways it does that is we are a people who do not like to experience pain or discomfort or inconvenience. And we also do not like to experience inactivity. But let's run with this thought for a moment. All sunshine makes for a desert. And one of the things we were discussing, a few of us down here, was that we pastors, we in the church sometimes too, but we pastors can be really bad about this. We want to rescue people. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're struggling with something? Okay, I'll fix it. If it's a man, pastor, that means he's got double whammy because he's a pastor and he feels he needs to fix everything. But he's a man and he feels like he needs to fix everything. And there are times that we need to let people struggle. As a matter of fact, one of the questions or the things that I hear today, and people say, well, here's how we need to decide how we help someone, is what's the most loving thing we can do? I agree with that statement. But unfortunately, some people think they turn that statement into an opportunity to enable or to rob, or to rescue. I'm going to suggest to you sometimes we rob people when we rescue. We rob people when we rescue. Not always, but sometimes. Here, let me talk to you about this a little bit. I remember I was working at our denomination's headquarters in one of the pensions office, and a friend of mine I got to know him pretty good. And he was had been a pastor, and he was now working at headquarters, still preached and stuff like that. But anyway, he was telling me about his kids. They were out on their four-wheeler, and they got stuck on a berm. The wheels, they just went over it, not fast enough to get the momentum to go over it. And he and his wife are watching them, and she says, well, you need to go out and help them get it unstuck. Give them a push so it'll take a... And he goes, no. He goes, let's just wait and see what happens here. And he says they watched him kind of struggle, and he goes, he was really kind of pleased with it because he watched his kids step back, look at it, they're rocking it, trying to push it and everything else, and they got it loose, and they figured out, it was a moment of growth for them. And I'm going to suggest to you, sometimes when we rescue people, we rob them of an opportunity to grow. We rob God of an opportunity to mold them and to do something in their life. I shared a personal experience with a friend of mine that it was a very dark time in my life, and I was going through some pain, emotional pain, and I called him and I said, man, I just want this pain to go away. And I'm not going to go into great detail about it. And he goes, well, you want to come in and see me, and we'll kind of work through it or whatever. I said, you know what? It was a Friday. I said, I need to experience this pain. Now, I'm not some sort of whack job that likes to experience pain. Trust me. I have the ointment that has pain reliever in it too, okay? I like to take my ibuprofen, or when my friend arthritis starts flaring up and showing up, I like to put on something that takes away the pain. I don't like pain, but I also know pain tells us that there is something that's not right. And so when we fight that, how does that mirror our lives? We like to mask it. Well, I don't want to deal with the problem. I want to just mask it. And here's the thing. People will change. Hear me out on this one. This one you can take to the bank. People will change when it hurts more to stay the same than it does to change. When I get comfortable in how things are, as long as I'm comfortable in it, I'm not going to make any effort to change. But as soon as it hurts bad to stay where I'm at, I'm going to do something about it. So, I think as we were talking about this, one of the examples we thought about was Job. Now, we understand there's the whole thing that, Satan has to sift him and to take him on and everything else. But God didn't come to his rescue right away. Because God knew there was some growth there. He also knew that there was something that the enemy needed to understand, is that when God's people are sold out to him, they will do okay. And they will turn to God. That's the other thing. Sometimes we don't want pain because we don't really want God. We want, I tell this to my congregation quite a bit. We want to see a miracle. Everybody wants to see a miracle as long as we're not the one that needs the miracle. We want to see people miraculously healed as long as we're not the ones who have to be healed. We need to understand that Jesus said, in this life you will have trouble. But I've overcome the world. In this world you will have trouble, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. The Apostle Paul said, I had a thorn in my side, and I asked God to get rid of it. He says, no, my grace is sufficient for you. You're going to grow closer to me because of this. You're going to lean on me because of this. And so back to that statement, all sunshine makes for a desert. Job had it all. Job had it all, and he loved God. But I'm going to tell you something. After Job lost it all, and Job dealt with his friends, quote unquote his friends, talk about a guy, you know what? Job was probably like, losing all my animals, losing my kids. That's nothing compared to having to deal with the wife that I had. Go curse God and die. Now there's a trophy wife for you, by the way. And then how about his friends? Well, what did you do to deserve all this? Good night. Get rid of them, Lord, and I'll serve you all the more, whatever the deal is. We avoid uncomfortable, painful situations. But those are the very things that may create life in us, that may help us blossom, that may help us be better. As we were talking about, all sunshine makes for a desert. I'm not a big deserty guy, although with all the snow on our ground right now and how cold it is, a desert sounds pretty good to me right now. But here's the thing, I've been in those places, and yeah, there's some life that thrives in desert. But they are not very green, and probably the desert that we think of in the Middle East, there's not a lot there when you're out in the Middle East and stuff, and where Jesus walked there. There's places that there was not a lot of life in them, and we'll dry up if all we have is sunshine. I saw someone post on Facebook the other day all the snow we're getting here in Western New York, and the amount of nitrogen that is put back into the soil from the snow. And so we sit here, and I can complain about the snow, but I'm going to tell you something. There's ski resorts out here that are thrilled right now that the last few years they've taken a hit because there was no snow. You know what? Is it all about me? No, it isn't. I need to say, you know what, I'll tolerate a little snow because maybe there's some people enjoying this, and maybe I need to enjoy it a little bit. That sort of thing. And so, we can, right now the wildfires out in California, those things are burning because it's too dry, part of the reason is. And so all sunshine makes for a desert. And you know what, I think it's in Job, it says it rains on the just and the unjust. We need the rain sometimes. We need the sunshine sometimes. We need it all. And can we trust that God, in the midst of whatever we're going through, is doing something? The answer to that question is yes. We can trust that God, I like to say, God doesn't waste a good crisis. A friend of mine called me yesterday, they were like, oh, Mark, the power steering went out in my car, and it's going to be $7,000. Well, they didn't look at it right, or they misheard or something. It's going to be $700. We can get ourselves so worked up. I can. I know. I go, what am I going to do with this? And sometimes, folks, we need to let ourselves struggle. We need to experience a little discomfort. We need to experience a little bit of pain sometimes. We need to experience a little frustration. Because God, especially with people right now, sometimes that person, well, they just rub me the wrong way. Well, you know what? That means God's probably using them to file down your rough edges. Ooh. Mic drop. That person that just, they say iron sharpens iron. It's because there's a little bit of roughness coming against you to sharpen that up. Wedding stone. And an old guy in one of my first church, he used to say, Pastor, there's never no time lost in wedding. WHETTING. It does sharpening you. A little sharp edge there keeps, a little rough edge keeps your blade sharp. And you know what? Sometimes that rough thing we're going through, that rough spot, is the very thing that we need to do. And so, Pastor Mark, what do we do in those situations? Well, I'm going to tell you what basically, in a nutshell, what God said to Joseph when he found out Mary was pregnant with Jesus. He didn't know it was Jesus, didn't know what was going on, but he was going to divorce her quietly. And so, you know what God in essence said to him? Don't just do something, stand there. I'm going to leave that right there, folks, because sometimes that's another chasing the wind. I'm going to follow that up with that. Right now, suffice it to say, that rough spot you're going through might be the very thing God's using to help you be more productive and fruitful later. So while you're struggling to try and get rid of the pain, the rough spot, maybe you just need to say, wonder what God's doing in all this. So I'm going to leave it right there, wind chasers. You keep chasing the wind, because the wind is chasing you. The Spirit of God is chasing you. Till next time, I'm Pastor Mark. Grace and peace.